Hello, it's Adedoyin Jaiyesimi here, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, the topic that I'm going to be talking about is how to handle comms PR in a regulated industry. I've had a number of conversations with people that are working in finance. There's certain restrictions that they face, legal sector, or any kind of sector that is regulated in some way, and you can't go all out. You can't do all the things that you would ideally love to do. How do you navigate that? So I will share with you my personal experience and some tips that I hope will be helpful for you. Okay, so my first experience with handling communications for an organization that is regulated, well, an organization that works in an industry that is regulated, was with a law firm. So anyone knows, working with a law firm, there are certain restrictions. It wasn't so much of a shock to me because I actually studied law, so I had an understanding of some of the regulations and the thinking behind them as to why those restrictions and regulations exist. So that kind of helped me to navigate things. But that was the experience. I had to go into this law firm and see how so this law firm, they had never done anything comms before. This was really there. They had a social media page where they would just be announcing things, and that was it. They weren't doing anything, nothing storytelling, engaging stakeholders. So I had to come in to help them tell their story better. So a lot of the strategies was really about storytelling, and then it was also about what can we do to ensure that the values of the organization shines through in their content, in their written pieces, and then establishing thought leadership for the senior executives so that there's some sort of brand awareness, because it's no longer brand awareness that is like, oh, here's what we do. It's brand awareness through thought leadership. People see the name of the CEO or the name of the organization, and they're reading things and they're associating this organization with the services that they provide, because law firms cannot openly solicit for new clients. But how do you create that awareness and that association in the minds of the people without doing it in such an obvious way? So that was the task that I had to do. It was challenging. I wouldn't even lie to you. It was very, very challenging. And it was challenging for many reasons. Dealing with because if you're introducing communications in an organization where they hadn't done it before, there's a lot of advocacy to be done. There's a lot of educating people as to why this is important. In fact, I insisted on having a training for the staff on storytelling, because they were also going to be a critical pillar, employee branding, to tell the story of the organization, and I needed them to understand it. But people were like, why do we need this? We're lawyers. So there was a lot of that, and that made it kind of tedious. But the results, several years after I had done that brief, the results still make me happy. And this is why sometimes, especially when you're the first, putting in that investment can be stretching. But if you think in terms of long term, it does pay off. Maybe somebody else benefits from it. Anyway, I digress. So yeah, that was one of the challenges. And then just bringing, so sometimes if people's conception of PR and comms is, oh, I'm on the cover of this magazine, or I am the front of this media platform, and you're like, no, that's really not just what it's about. There is a broader thing. So advising the CEO to do certain things, and he's like, why? So that was, but it was really, really, really good. And I really, really learned a lot of things. However, in terms of sharing with you tips, one of the first things that I would say to you, if you find yourself handling comms for an organization in a regulated industry, is please understand the regulation, first of all. Understand what the restrictions are. I'm currently advising a client that also works in a regulated industry, and I had to sit down with their staff, and this is not an industry I'm familiar with, it's real estate. And I had to sit down with the staff to say, explain to me what exactly these restrictions are and why they are there. So it's not just understanding the restrictions, you need to understand the why. The why helps you to, when you're creating strategies, you make sure that you don't go beyond the why. So if I know why this thing exists, then I know that, okay, this is the boundary that we can't go beyond. However, we can do this because it doesn't directly contravene whatever this regulation is in terms of the outcomes. So understanding the why is very, very important. And I did that with that particular real estate company, just understanding what are these regulations, why did they put them in place, what is acceptable. So doing that, getting that information, I used that in developing the strategy, because I was engaged to develop an overarching strategy for the organization, especially to communicate on a digital front. Now, one thing I've seen is that for regulated industries, one of the best strategies you can adopt is a storytelling strategy, as opposed to something that is overly advertorial. Because what organizations would typically want to do is they want to show you that we offer these products or these services. But if the industry is regulated, depending on what the products or services are, you cannot openly say that these are the services that we offer. So you need to think about, how do I tell the story of this organization in such a way that people know what the organization does, what the organization stands for, and begin to like the organization. And that's where having an understanding of consumer psychology is important. Having an understanding of what is important to the target audience is important. What are their pain points? What are their needs? And how can I story tell in such a way that I become, or my brand, my organization becomes the brand of choice for whatever need that they have. And the second aspect of that is in your storytelling, when people are searching for services in this area on Google, it pulls that content, those stories, and the stories are help you to win over or pull people into the funnel, so that you take them off social media and then they have the conversations with your sales team where they can now tell them this is what we do and all. Because a lot of times with the restrictions on social media is that they don't want people to, depending again on the services they want, it's consumer protection. They are actually just protecting the consumer or making sure that there isn't unfair advantage in terms of competition. So what it is that you want to be able to bring in the people that you need into the funnel and then have those conversations with them as they go along in that process. So that is the initial thing, and I really believe that storytelling does work. That's a strategy that I've adopted 2 times, and it really, really does work. Another tip that I see that really works is that your approach to your content should be to inform, to engage, and to advocate. Now, informing doesn't mean that, hey, we're offering these services. Informing is your activities. So you have to also think creatively about the activities that the organization is doing. So remember the legal firm that I was speaking to you about, they were involved in CSR activities. The people were involved in certain conferences locally and globally, and we were putting that out there. We were informing people about, this is what we're doing. We've gone for this private equity conference. This conference is all about this. This is what we've learned. You can tie that into thought leadership, but we are absolutely informing people. Educating is in the subject matter area where that organization has its expertise. How do you educate the audience? So real estate, for example, how are you educating them about, here's what you need to do in terms of making sure that you properly do due diligence before you buy or rent an apartment. Here's what you need to do to fact check or vet your new landlord or tenant. All those things that educate your audience. And in educating them, what happens is they begin to see your expertise. They begin to, if you go to a place, let's even use food, for example. If, for example, there's a YouTube channel that you go to learn how to make Italian food, if they release a product in 2 days or whenever, you're more likely to buy it because you trust that brand, you trust that person, you've tried and you've tested their recipes, you see that, wow, it comes out absolutely fantastic. Whatever product they create down the line, you're more likely to buy it than someone that you don't know before. So that's the thinking behind it. So you inform, you educate, and then you advocate. Advocacy is very, very important, especially in the world that we live in. What cause is authentic to your organization that you can begin to back? So you're backing not just in terms of giving money, but you are engaging, you're giving a platform to advocate for whatever it is that you want to advocate for. And so using that 3-pronged approach, you're ensuring that you are visible to the right audience, you are putting out the right information, you are showing people that this is who we are, this is what we do, this is what we are experts at, but you are not doing it in an advertorial way, you're not doing it in a way that will contravene whatever the rules and the regulations are. Another thing that I would also advise is for you to humanize the brand, and that's where the people come in. So remember when I said to you that I insisted on doing a session and training on storytelling for the employees? Very, very important, because when you humanize the brand, it helps other people to see and like. So you will find that there are organizations that will have a page called Humans of Coca-Cola or something, or they signpost their people, right? I was watching something from the Emirates, and it was just like behind the scenes with their people. Humanize your brand in that way. So it's more about the people. You're putting them out, you're spotlighting them. They can, if you do a day in the life, for example, of one of your staff, people can see, oh, so this is what this person do. They can infer from that video that this is what the people do. Oh, this is how passionate they are about what they do. This is how they go the extra mile. But you're not the one saying it, but people can see it from the content. So humanizing the brand is something that would be very, very helpful. And one thing I really like about humanizing the brand and also storytelling is that you also get to show the value. So a lot of organizations, you go on the website, we're excellent, integrity, this and that, you say it. But when you humanize the brand, when you use storytelling, I can see that these people are committed to excellence. I can see that these people are passionate about this. I can see that these people are really people-centric. It's not just something they put on the wall. You're able to demonstrate it, and that's something that you want to create affinity. You want to create some sort of loyalty. You want to create an association that even though, for example, I may not be your target audience, but when somebody asks me to recommend, if I know a law firm, there's this law firm that I follow on LinkedIn, they have great content, they are experts in this, I can easily recommend and refer. And the final thing I would say is you have to constantly engage your key stakeholders, internal and external. For regulated industries, any small thing like this, especially for those people that work in finance, any small thing can lead to an infraction. So you want to make sure that you're constantly engaged with your key stakeholders. What are the new regulations? So for example, things are usually changing with banks and financial institutions. So when a new regulation comes in, remember I said inform, educate. How do you inform your other stakeholders? How do you educate them about this new policy or whatever that has come out? And then how do you make sure that you stay engaged with the regulators so you're on the right side of the books? Now there's obviously going to be the compliance team, the legal team, but you have to work hand in hand with them. I've always said this, comms cannot sit in one office in a silo, especially if you work in a regulated industry. You want to know what's being said. So if they have, I think in the banks they have something they call NPR, but there are these meetings where they get these circulars. You want to know what's in the circular. You may not have understanding of the lingo, but you had better go and meet somebody that would interpret the meaning or the content of that circular, and you have to think, what does this mean for the bank? What does this mean for our audience? What does this mean for the work that we're doing in communications? How do we disseminate this information of this policy? How is our audience most likely to react to this? Is the tax increasing? Is the levy increasing? The charges, are they increasing? How do we communicate this? You have to really, really think, but you can't do that thinking if you're not engaged with your internal and external stakeholders. So it's going to be very, very, very crucial for you. So yeah, those are some of the tips that I can share. If you have or you currently work with an organization that is regulated in some way, I hope that you find these tips helpful. If you have additional tips that I may not have spoken about, please feel free to write them in the comment section. Let's all learn. And as always, you can reach out to me if you have more questions. You can send an email, connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to answer any more questions that you have. Thank you for watching. Bye.